All right, welcome in to Bears Nation Podcast, brought to you by OnTap Sports Network. Be sure to, as always, visit ontapsports.net.com to never miss a story in Chicago sports and browse their wide variety of Chicago sports content. I am Kevin Lapka, and no, that is not Jake Hasan. It is, though, Kate Constable. We work together at BetQL. She does a ton of stuff in the sports media space. She is the absolute best. We really appreciate Kate jumping on a replacement for Jake. She's probably better than Jake anyway. So we're good to have her on here. Kate, how we doing? Thank you so much for joining us to talk about probably the worst football game of all time.
Jake and I kind of look alike, right?
Yeah,
I heard Jake got a new haircut, so we probably don't.
Yeah, did he? I didn't know that. I was just with him today. That's bad on me.
I heard maybe it was last week. I was listening to BetQL Daily, and he apparently got a new haircut that he doesn't like. So I have not seen him yet either.
Kate, there's nothing worse than getting a haircut you don't like. I mean, that is the worst confidence killer. It's terrible.
Kevin, I got a bob once. You know what a bob is?
Yeah, I know what a bob is, Kate. That ain't good.
I wasn't trying to get a bob. I walked out of there with the bob, and I didn't want a bob, and it was awful. Awful. Oh. Yes.
Well, let's hope Justin Fields didn't get a bad haircut or Tyson Bagent. We don't know. We don't know who's going to be starting Thursday night, Bears Panthers on prime time. And we hadn't done a recap episode of the Saints game. It's a short week for us here at Bears Nation Podcast and for everybody. Right with the Thursday night game, we typically will do our recap episode on Monday. Jake was out at a wedding. He's also out tonight getting his life together. We typically will do a recap, but can I be honest? I mean, there's really just not much to recap from that game. I mean, we hear the stance that we have on this show is very straightforward on Bagent versus Fields. We don't have to do the conversation again. We don't have to compare him to Drew Brees. We don't have to compare him to Brett Favre like some people were doing on the Score this week. We're not doing that here at the Bears Nation Podcast. We're just going to move right along to Thursday Night Football if that's okay with you.
That's just fine. Yes, the comparisons, we can skip all of those. We know exactly who Tyson Bagent is at this point, I think. So let's move on.
Yeah, it's absolutely tiring. Absolutely tiring. I'm telling you, I work at the Score and I sit there all day and I listen to callers come in all day and say, yeah, this guy's Drew Brees, he's Kurt Warner, he's Tom Brady, just give it time. No, but unfortunately, he may again be the starter for the Bears on Thursday night. And we may again have to deal with not just 7 days of that narrative, but 10 because it's a longer week now after the Thursday game. And if he plays well against a Panthers defense that's not great, then you might have even more conversation and conflict there at the quarterback position. But we don't know. Again, we're recording this Tuesday night. If you're listening in podcast form, November 7th, we do not yet know if Justin Fields will be active in this game. He is considered day to day, and the Wednesday practice will be the main determinant as to whether he will play on Thursday night. Kate, if you had to guess, though, I know we're going to kind of play a speculation game here, but I feel like there is some narratives surrounding this situation that could determine whether he plays or not. Like, if you think about it, if you're him, if you're Justin Fields, and you know that we heard from Eberflus that he's pain-free, right? That's not the problem. The problem is really coming down to grip strength on whether he can play Thursday night or not. If you're him, your NFL life is on the line. It feels that way. And you have a chance, whether it's with the Bears or not, you have a chance to kind of still make a name for yourself in these next 8 games and show that you can be a viable starting quarterback in this league and prove to somebody out there, whether it's Ryan Poles or whether it's the GM of the Atlanta Falcons, whoever it may be, that you can be a starter in this league worthy of getting big-time NFL money. Like, if I'm him, right, and it may not be totally his decision, he's got to be like edging and wanting to play on Thursday because his career is on the line. Am I wrong?
You're right and you're wrong. I totally agree with you. He wants to get back out in the field because he does need to play. And if you're going to get traded, I listened to a podcast earlier today that Courtney Cronin was on. She made a really good point. If you're going to get traded, you want your best stuff out there. Well, if he goes out there half healthy, is he going to have his best stuff? And is that what other teams are going to look at when it does come time for the Bears to move on with quarterbacks? If I know you're going to get all upset, Kate, if that happens, then Fields is going to want his best stuff. So does he want to rush back? It's also kind of like a tough spot because, okay, so the Bears need to win this game this weekend, or
yes,
need is a strong word, but yes, they do, because they want to get the number 1 draft pick. And so beat Carolina, your odds go up a little bit. So Justin wants to come back to get this win for the Bears so that they can get a higher draft pick so that they can draft his replacement. That's where I'm like, if I was Justin, I'd kind of be like, I'm not fully healthy. Screw you a little bit. But the competitor that I imagine he is itching to get back on the field. And in that sense, of course, he's going to want to play.
I mean, the frustration we have is analysts and viewers of this team and really of the organization as a whole is we don't know how they feel about Justin Fields. We presume that they want to move on. We presume that based off the game plans that they designed for Tyson Bagent, that they have some sort of feeling towards Justin Fields, but they could very well be in that building telling him, hey, if you ball out the next 7 games or next 8 games, we'll consider retaining you. So I don't know if he's like at the point yet where he wants to spite the Bears and not help them by winning a game that, helps their draft position to find the replacement. Like that would be a lot of that would. I mean, there probably already is a fracture between Fields and the front office, but that would mean that it's really bad. And he's just kind of, trying to
Which I don't think it's at that point quite yet. Right.
I mean, I don't think it is, but if again, we don't talk to Justin Fields on the daily, yada, 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 but like, he definitely is aware. He should be aware at least of like, all right, we know what they have designed for Tyson Bagent has been phenomenal. The positions that they put him in have been great. They've made him look really good. And then everything on Sunday Night Football about what Collinsworth was saying. And then I think it was Jay Glazer who was talking about all this stuff. And people are like, well, where do all these reports come from? They come from the team when they have the meetings, the broadcast meetings before the game. A lot of the statements that have been said about Tyson Bagent about how great he is, about how Fields can learn from him. Like a lot of people believe that those things were coming from the team because they don't believe that people like Chris Collinsworth will pull that out of thin air. So if Justin Fields knows that or recognizes that, then yeah, the relationship's definitely fractured. But I still think there's an avenue. And I know there's some people that don't think this way at all and think that it's 100% chance that they will draft a quarterback. I still think there's an avenue where he is a member of the team, the starting quarterback of the team in 2024. And I think the Bears would be dumb and naive to not at least entertain that avenue, because you're still in a luxurious position if he plays well enough the next 8 games if he plays like he did against Denver and against Washington. The next 7, if you take that sample size and extrapolate it for the next 8 games, that's a legitimate top 10 quarterback in the NFL from a statistical standpoint. And then you still have top 5 draft picks to spend on the interior and whatnot. Like, I still think that is an avenue that they have to entertain. But I don't know if it's telling if they were to bench him or not. Like, it's really hard to tell that if he's active or if he's inactive, what the plan is, because you're right when you say, well, if you are a team that's looking to trade for him, you don't want him to play the next 8 games, look like shit, and then the trade value is lower, because I guess you could argue, I think there's some people that argue, well, his value is at an all-time high because the last time we saw him, he's throwing for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against Commanders on Thursday Night Football. He's throwing for, 300 yards against the Denver Broncos. So there is a case to be made for that. I think there's still that avenue where the Bears retain him in 2024. And if that were to be the case, he needs every single minute of playing time he can get, because at some point, like, it's just going to be, he's going to run out of time. He's going to run out of games. Yeah. Even if you do play well for 5 games, hey, guess what? It's only 5 games. What happened in the first 30? So I feel like or at least he is inching for every drop of time that he can get to prove himself as a starting quarterback in this league and for this team. But, what do I know?
It goes on a 3-minute rant. What do I know?
Yeah. Well.
Okay, Kevin, I'm with you. I don't understand all these reports of like Justin Fields can learn stuff from Tyson Bagent. I mean, Tyson Bagent had 3 interceptions against the Saints, 3 or 4, correct, and a fumble, another turnover. Like, Justin Fields is not doing those types of things when he's out there. He's turned the ball over before, sure, but he's still significantly better than Tyson Bagent. So I think if Fields is healthy, you put him in the game over Bagent, like, no questions asked. That's a done deal, right? But yes, it does seem a little funny that the Bears have been so good at putting Bagent in a position to succeed, where why aren't they doing that for Fields? Because unless it's that Bagent's style of play fits Getsy's offense a little bit better than Fields, and so that's why, like, maybe those two together work well. But if you're saying that, which the Bears said today, which, I mean, kind of crazy, that the offense, whether it's Bagent or Fields playing, is not, the game plan's not going to change much. And of course, sure, they're going to say that just because you don't want to tell the opposing team that you're going to
Oh,
play.
that's all bullshit anyway, Kate. I mean, come on. Like, I hate when coaches do that. Like,
Well, that could be what they're doing, but you shouldn't have, like, if you can tailor your offense towards the strengths of Bagent, why can't you tailor it towards the strengths of Justin Fields versus having Fields try and fit what Getsy's strengths are? That's what it seems like the difference between those two scenarios are. And I don't understand why the Bears, and they probably are, like, this is probably way above any sort of football knowledge I have. I'm not at Hallis Hall in those meetings and stuff, but it just seems like they've done a really good job of that with Bagent. Why doesn't it feel like they're doing the same thing with Fields?
Yeah, no, this is a perfect transition. We're going to break down the game now and what Luke Getsy said. Again, it's in the title. Is this the Bears Super Bowl? Yes, this is the Bears Super Bowl. This is the only game that matters. If you are a fan, like everyone who's watching this and listening to this, huge fans of the team, you at this point are likely in tank mode. We get that, and we understand that if you're a fan, but we also understand if you're rooting for wins. We support all sorts of viewpoints as fans on this show. But really, this is the most significant game. You're 2-7. You're not playing for anything against any of the other teams the rest of the year. You're not making the playoffs, so you might as well root as hard as you can and act like this is a Super Bowl, because there are serious ramifications for the outcome of this game. I mean, it's not like that serious, because if you do end up losing, you're still helping the pick that you do have. Like, at this point, most Bears fans thought of this as a significant game because of the Panthers pick, but they thought we'd be like, I don't know, 5-4 at this point, or, in my case, like 6-3 potentially, because they, I thought that they had a better team and the ability to have a better start to the year. But now that you're 2-7, it's not the worst thing in the world if you lose, but it does help you if you win, because that Carolina pick will likely be more valuable than your own pick. You hope it would be. If it doesn't, that is somehow more disastrous than this season has already gotten. But yes, Bears Panthers Thursday night football. Poor Al Michaels. We pray for his health and sanity in this one. We all know his reaction to Bears Commanders a year ago, which I was at. I was at that game a year ago. If you remember, I think the final was 13-7, if I'm not mistaken. But it was, they got that final drive, Justin Fields 40-yard rush to get down to I believe it was like the 4 or 5 yard line. They had 4 plays. They had first and goal from the 4-yard line.
Yes,
I forget the exact sequence of plays, but the last play was the drop with Darnell Moon in the end zone. It was a terrible experience, Kate. And you said this to me before the show, and I just feel so horrible and terrible for you that you will be at the game, Kate. And not just at the game, you got prime seats for this game, Kate.
I have prime real estate on Thursday. First row, 50-yard line. First time ever sitting that close. And it's the Bears and the Panthers with potentially no Justin Fields on the field. It's going to be a great game. Let me backtrack. It's going to be a great time either way, because it'll be a cool atmosphere, cool experience to be that up close to the field and the players and all that. But I just wish that we were 6-3 at this point and playing, for something other than potential draft stock, right? Like, it's a very me game to have tickets for. Like, never the exciting stuff, right? It's awful.
Yeah, you better have like an 18-leg parlay or something to at least
I might have
interested.
To.
I mean, I think you absolutely have to. And it's funny because Jake and I always talk about, like, there's all these people that say, like, we have to boycott the Bears franchise. If we want things to change with the front office, you got to not go to the games. You got to not buy the jerseys. And it's like, all right, if you get presented with tickets at the 50-yard line in the first, like, you're going to go to the Bears game. Right. Like, it's so outrageous to think that you're just going to actually boycott the team. That's never going to happen.
No. And I haven't had, like, I like watching the games at home because I feel like I watch them better, which is kind of sounds crazy, versus being in the stadium. Correct. Because you get, like, the announcers, the background, everything like that. And I can have a couple other games on. So, but Thursday nights, you get these tickets, you kind of have to go, right? That's not really a question.
You got to go. I mean, primetime energy, regardless, is still it's still a cool experience. Jay Sanders in the chat. Justin is officially out? ? No, not yet. He is questionable. Like we said, he's day to day. He's been practicing. It's just a matter of whether his grip strength is fully there. But we're going to kind of start there with the breakdown of this game. Kate had mentioned, Luke Getsy goes to the podium today and says that the game plan, regardless of whether it's Tyson Bagent or Justin Fields, will be the same. And Kate is of the belief that that's coach speak and they don't want to reveal anything. I think it's bullshit because I just I mean, they have the tape on what Justin Fields can do with a full game plan against the Commanders. They have the tape like with Tyson, like they'll be prepared regardless. Like the Carolina Panthers, they aren't a good team, but you got to trust what they do throughout the week. Frank Reich is at least a respectable head coach. They'll be prepared for any type of game plan that they throw at you. I'm sure they'll prepare for more of a dink and dunk, ground and pound type game because that just favors the matchup statistically, which we'll get to in a second. But I'm sorry, whether it's coach speak or not, it is malpractice that is the case because and you know what it is, Kate? It is an affirmation that this whole goal for Luke Getsy has been to fit a QB into his system, and he's going to do it his way. And it just happens to be that we draft this D2 kid from Shepherd, and he's exactly what we want. He's just going to game manage the hell out of the offense. He's going to do the things we ask of him. He's going to get the ball out quick. We know he won't make splash plays. We know he won't attempt throws beyond 20 yards, but guess what? He'll manage the game. We'll run the football the entire time. We'll play it the Chicago Bears way, and this is the way we're going to do it. And him saying what he said today about how the game plan won't be different is just more confirmation to me that they don't know truly on a week-to-week basis how to design a game plan around a quarterback as versatile as Justin Fields. And Jake and I have talked about this a lot. Like, we truly believe that he is arguably the most versatile quarterback in the NFL, meaning the things you can do with him offensively are it's infinite, right? I mean, he's just what he can do with his legs, his arm strength has no avail. Like what you can do with him is infinite. And we almost think that there is so much presented to them as an offense with a player like Justin Fields that they don't know what to do with him. And they would rather just be basic and rather just do the basics. And it is just, we've seen it. We've seen it. And I know Jacob Porter the Don is saying, preach. Yeah, I mean, I know you guys all see it too. Screen passes on 3rd and 10, running the ball on 2nd and 9. I mean, we've seen this for 3 years, and just him saying that the game plan won't be different, whether you believe it's coach speak or not, I don't think it is just more of an affirmation that this is always the way it's supposed to be. And it's more of it scares me even more, Kate, that we have talked for a while about they are going to make Justin Fields a scapegoat as much as they can to save their jobs. That's the only way they can save their jobs is if they make Justin Fields the scapegoat and they say, hey, look at our offense with a guy who can run it in Tyson Bagent, and they're going to do this for the next 8 weeks with Justin Fields and try to fit him into the same game plan they implemented for Tyson Bagent, and he's going to look terrible. They're going to make him the scapegoat, and they're going to do everything they can to go into Ryan Pohl's office and Kevin Warren's office at the end of the year and say, hey, look what Justin Fields was able to do, and look what Tyson Bagent was able to do with our game plan, and try to move on from there. So a frustrating moment with me, and a sad moment for you because at the game, that's the game plan you're going to see. Have fun watching dink and dunks. Have fun watching ground and pound Deonta Foreman 6-yard runs because we know Justin Fields is capable of throwing the ball down the field, but they ain't going to do it, and it's going to piss me the hell off whether he plays or not.
It almost feels like that is a negative for Getsy and the coaching staff because
you'd think,
right? You have Justin Fields is far more talented than Tyson Bagent. Like I don't know if anyone's really going to argue that, right? So as a coach, not being able to adapt your offense and change your offense to fit your talent or your quarterback, like that just makes Luke Getsy look extremely one-dimensional. And like if he had a quarterback like Lamar Jackson and he was coaching him, like would he be able to construct an offense around the strengths of Lamar Jackson, or is he strictly want a Matthew Stafford, someone who's going to sit in the pocket, orchestrate the offense? I mean, like a Brock Purdy, that would be probably Getsy's like perfect person. But it to me, it's almost like a negative on that offensive coaching staff because they're not able to do things that fit the style of play for various quarterbacks. They're only able to have success when they're working with one specific type of quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, sure, some people might think that it makes him look really good that he's turned this D2 player into someone who can play in the NFL. Like that's one way to look at it. But I would argue it's the other way of it makes Getsy look so one-dimensional, like he can't adapt his style of coaching to fit the needs of other players.
I mean, I'm with you. That's what we would think. And if you make that case, it's a lose-lose situation for them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like at this point, right, if they believe that the only thing that can save them, let's say, again, I think they're too far gone. And I would make the case that if they somehow lose this week, that they'll be fired. And I understand it's never happened in the Chicago Bears organization. And everyone wants to say, oh, they never fired coaches in season. It ain't going to happen. Well, we went on this whole rant last week, Jake and I did. And I've said it from the start that the only thing that I have to hold on to with this organization anymore is the fact that they do have a potential different decision maker up top in Kevin Warren, who would be willing to take that gamble and willing to take that risk. And the good thing is, Kate, you have league precedent for it now. I mean, you go to the West Coast and you see what's happening in Vegas, and you see the different. And sure, I'm not saying Matt Eberflus is a locker room cancer that Josh McDaniels appeared to be, but just this idea of the fresh, new look on the team and bringing somebody in and getting rid of people and yeah, Eberflus isn't a cancer, but they've dealt with a lot of stuff in that locker room, right? With Alan Williams and David Walker being dismissed. You got to imagine that, a change up top with the coaching staff would probably make them a little bit happier. I don't know if they'd be smoking cigars in the locker room after the game like the Raiders, but maybe you'd see something different. So I think if they lose, they're fired. It does seem like a lose-lose situation for Luke Getsy, but if you rattle off wins, that's the only way for them, is if they somehow by some miracle rattle off like 5 or 6 wins, they get to 8 wins at the end. Say they end 8-9, right? And they walk back up to George McCaskey's office and say, hey, you wanted improvement this year? Well, guess what? 5 games of improvement. 3-14 last year, 8-9 this year. Guess what? 5 games of improvement next year. It's going to be 13 wins. And they're going to pitch that all they can. And luckily for them, yes, the Bears schedule is very, very soft the rest of the year. But they're probably going to win this game because it plays exactly to their favor. When we start to break down the stats here of Bears-Panthers on Thursday night and what the Panthers present to you on the defensive side of the ball versus the Bears offense, I mean, this is the perfect scenario for the Chicago Bears to just win this game 16-10. I mean, you look at the Panthers defensively, specifically from the rushing side, 32nd in opponent rush TD per game, 28th in opponent rush yards per game, 32nd in opponent rush play percentage, but first in opponent pass play percentage. So basically, opponents are rushing against the Panthers at the highest rate and passing against them at the lowest rate. So the Bears are going to walk right into this, ground and pound the hell out of this game, come out of it 16-10 win. They're going to be 3-7 and say, hey, we have winnable games on the schedule the rest of the way, and try everything they can to win games, because I know there's Bears fans who say like they should tank. I agree. Guess what? The coaching staff can't afford to tank. The quarterback can't afford to tank. And Kate, you're a huge betting girl. From the betting aspect of it, like the Bears are a team the rest of the year you low-key don't want to bet against because there's no incentive for them to throw games. The Giants are going to tank the hell out of it. You can bet against the Giants all you want, but the Bears have no incentive to do it. Losing games does not help Matt Eberflus. I think he's too far gone, but if you end with a 5-30 record on your resume, yeah, that's one of the worst records in NFL history. So just back to the statistical analysis and the game plan for this game, Kate, it favors the Bears in such a way that I think the chance of winning this game for them, whether it's Bagent or Fields, is just incredibly high because I don't think they're going to get Khalil Herbert back for this game. He's designated to return off IR. We don't yet know if he'll be activated off IR. But whether it is just Roschon Johnson, Deonta Foreman, Kate, this plays exactly into the Bears' favor.
So you're telling me we just need to bet the overs on the ground game, on Foreman and Johnson, right? Like,
well, the
anytime
problem,
touchdown scores for them.
Oh, 100%. I jump all over the touchdown scores. The problem is, if you're looking at the betting market, we don't know who really is going to get the majority. And just with Khalil Herbert potentially playing or being, we just don't know yet. But once we know, say it is Herbert, that number is going to be like 42.5 over. Lock it in. I mean, this Panthers rush defense is terrible.
Yeah, they've been awful this year. So this does lead right into the Bears' hands. I mean, when I first saw this line of 3.5, I kind of thought like maybe the books are thinking Justin Fields might play. But then when you put all these stats on paper, the Bears should win this game. I don't want to say easily, but kind of easily, right? I mean, that's what you would think they should. Have the Bears done what we think they should do all season? No, that hasn't happened. But I mean, bottom in the league in almost all sorts of defensive categories. If Bagent is good at just managing the game like he has been decent at, and no turnovers, if he can limit the turnovers, the Bears should be able to win this one just fine. Now, you went through all of the stats on the Panthers side. There are still defensive efficiencies for the Bears. I know our secondary is very good. But then again, can the Panthers offensive line hold up and give Bryce Young time to make plays? And is he even going to be able to do that? He really hasn't shown that so far. So I'm with you, Kev. I think that this is a game that's very winnable for the Bears, and a lot of incentive with getting that. They're helping their draft stock, things like that. So yeah, I think they should win this one.
Yeah,
I say
I mean,
I'm not very confident in it, but yeah.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be confident with this team. I mean, we'll get to our predictions at the end of the episode here, and we'll break that down. But it plays right into their favor. And you look at Carolina, when you talked about their offensive line and their ability to, protect Bryce Young, and what the Bears can do from a pressure standpoint, obviously have been one of the worst teams in the league at getting pressure on the quarterback and near last in sacks, right? Well, this Carolina has given up the fourth most sacks. This Carolina Panthers team, rather, has given up the fourth most sacks in the league. And guess what? You do add a huge piece last week in Montez Sweat. And then we didn't really get a ton of time to talk about it here on Bears Nation podcast. Weird, I guess, is what I have to say about it. Again, it just feels like they're building the team out of order. But nonetheless, it's done. It's over. I'm not going to cry about it at this point. They give him the contract extension. Now it's time for him to play up to it. And he's really on pace for a career year. And Jake pointed down the chat says, this Panthers O-line is food. Well, if that's the case, Jake pointed down, well, I better see Montez Sweat earn that freaking money on Thursday night. Go out there and quiet all the noise about being an overpay, about, hey, you're right next to Myles Garrett in the edge rusher market. If you're right next to Myles Garrett, you better freaking show it, dude. I'm expecting a couple sacks from Montez Sweat. We did see him get a decent amount of pressure on the quarterback last week on Derek Carr in a limited snap share. He generated a team-high 4 pressures on 25 pass rushes. Again, a very low number of rushes, a 16% pressure rate, 2.73 second average time to pressure. Kate, this is a really, really big moment for Montez Sweat, because I am just waiting for them to end the narrative before it starts of what is that, second round pick going to turn out to be? What is that 35th or whatever it may be pick turn out to be? Because come April, like it did last year when the Steelers selected Joey Porter Jr. with the pick that the Bears gave away for Chase Claypool, when draft time comes around, they're going to look at Montez Sweat in that contract, and they're going to look at what the Commanders are going to get at pick 35 and say, well, I don't know if that trade was worth it. Please, Montez, 2 sacks, 3 sacks, whatever it may be on Thursday night, end the conversation, show you're worth the money, because I'm sick of it.
Well, to that point, The Athletic yesterday had an article, and the title is Defense Keeps Bears in It, but Not Enough Impact Plays in Montez Sweat's debut. The guy had been with the organization for 4 days, and people are already questioning his impact in his first game as a Bear. So if he continues, I mean, I'm giving the guy a pass. It's his first game with a brand new team. He's getting used to things. But he's got to start showing up and showing out early. Otherwise, yes, people are going to start questioning this. And the Bears have been awful when they don't record any sort of sacks in a game. Since 2003, Kevin, the Bears are 0-16 when they don't record a sack or create a turnover. Awful. Since 2015, they're 1-21 when they don't record a sack. So Montez Sweat comes into this game, doesn't get a sack, doesn't get a couple tackle for losses, things like that. It's going to be tough for the Bears to win this game. He's someone who has to make those impact plays, force pressure on the quarterback, get a couple sacks, force Bryce Young to make quick decisions that he doesn't want to make, likely resulting or hopefully resulting in some turnovers. Because if Sweat doesn't have as big of an impact as the Bears want him to or paid him to make, Bears aren't going to be winning a whole lot of games.
What a stat you just pulled out there. 0-16 when they don't record a sack since 2003. That is shout out, incredible.
Kevin Fishbane from The Athletic for that stat.
You could have just said you found it yourself. Would have been a lot cooler.
Journalistic integrity, Kevin.
That's right. Hat tip, Kevin Fishbane. That is unbelievable. Luckily, the Bears, to only have 16 games in which you record a sack in 20 years is pretty good. I mean, No, I don't know what the number looks like for other teams, but just kind of thinking about it. I mean, the Bears have had such prolific defenses over that time span that it's not surprising. But wow, yeah. I mean, so basically what Kate's saying is that the Bears don't record a sack, they're going to lose. I mean, the historical precedent tells us that's going to be the case. But luckily,
Kevin,
the good, yeah.
One more stat for you. You're going to love
Oh,
this
let's
one.
go. Oh, I'll
Fourth
love it.
time under Eberflus that the Bears had 0 sacks and 0 takeaways in a game. Only happened twice under Nagy, 4 times under Fox, and 5 times under Lovie Smith in his 9 seasons. Eberflus has been here how long? 9 seasons, and then only happened to Lovie Smith 4 times. Already 4 times under Eberflus.
You want to know why it's funny, Kate? Is because they hired this guy to be the coach that brings you turnovers, and to be the coach that brings you sacks. And he's 4 times. And
Bears are the most incompetent franchise.
I can't. It's every week we find a way, Kate, every week to let out our frustrations about this team. I think we. Hey, after the Commanders game was like that was the peak. We had nothing bad to say. It was.
I mean, that for the most part was a fairly flawless game for Bears standards. That was a really good game.
G Station, did any of those coaches went through a complete teardown? I don't know what you're trying to say, G Station, but you better not be here defending Matt. We got a couple Matt Eberflus burners in the chat, apparently. I understand what you're saying about the 2022 season and the rebuild. Like, sure, that you could say, oh, you want about the talent he had on that team. It wasn't great. We all know that was one of the worst rosters in the NFL. Well, it was the worst roster in the NFL that year, but one of the worst rosters in the NFL, especially defensively, in like the past 5 years. But G Station, there's been no excuses this year. I mean, sure, they've dealt with a couple of injuries, and they're probably going to be without Tremaine Edmonds, this week. And sure, the pass rush wasn't great before Sweat got here, but they signed Yannick Ngakoue. You drafted 2 guys in the second round to be effective up front, in Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens, and they've been nothing. You sign Andrew Billings, who's been good, but he's mostly a run stuffer. I don't think that there's excuses to be made, especially this year for Matt Eberflus in that front. If we go, Kate, to the other side and you look at the Bears offensive line versus the Panthers defensive line, we know now on Tuesday that Brian Burns, the premier edge rusher for the Panthers, will be out along with their top cornerback, CJ Henderson. So that's some really, really, really significant injury news that favors the Bears and probably makes them more likely to win the game. I mean, not often do you see a couple of players, really move the line, and I don't really know if the line did move today after that news, but you got to imagine that those 2 guys being out just what the ESPN FPI win percentage thing, it probably went up a little bit after we found out that news, because not only are they without Brian Burns, okay, this has been a pretty decent, should I say, Bears offensive line, especially last week. I mean, you get Braxton Jones back off the IR with that neck injury. Some thought he would miss the whole year. He comes back. He holds up pretty well against a really good Saints defensive front. We know Tevin Jenkins was the highest graded offensive lineman in week 9 last week. We know Donald Wright's an absolute dog. Nate Davis was out, but you had guys like Cody Whitehair fill in okay, and Lucas Patrick played well. Kate, I really think this Bears offensive line has turned a corner, and they get really lucky that they're facing a Panthers defensive front that's depleted and just not very good.
Do we know, has Brian Burns missed any games this season?
It's a great question.
No, I'm looking at this right now. 8 games played. We're going into week 9, so he has not, right?
No, I don't. Yeah, we're going into week 9. I don't think they've had their bye.
Leads the Panthers in sacks by 2.5. Sack yards, 42. The next closest player, 26. So he makes a major impact on that defensive line. So I wonder, with him out, I mean, you said it, like, that's going to be a massive plus for the Bears. I would love some comparisons on how the Panthers perform with him on the field and without, but he's played all 8 games this year, so apparently we're not going to get those. But having those 2 out, I mean, massive advantage for Chicago, I think, for sure. And I would agree with you. The offensive line does feel like they've turned a corner. Guys are back and healthy. Tevin Jenkins, let's hope he can stay on the field. But the offensive line has done a much better job this year than they were last year.
Quick search on that Brian Burns statistic, credit to StatMuse, actually an unbelievable website, StatMuse, is you just search Panthers without Brian Burns, and it shows 2 games. The first one was January 3rd, 2021. They lost 33-7 without Brian Burns. That ain't good. There's maybe something to generate there. But On January 8th, 2023, they beat the New Orleans Saints 10-7 without Brian Burns. So I don't really know what to make here of Brian Burns being out. Regardless, it ain't good for the Panthers defense because they don't have a lot of talent on that side of the ball, a lot of talent at all. And guess what? You can't draft an edge rusher because guess what? You don't have your number one pick because guess what? Who owns that first round pick? We do. That's right. What a great feeling that is. I mean, we talked about before, but it just reminds me with this game. I mean, that like the way DJ Moore is playing, he still has a chance if he has a couple big games. It's kind of a stray. It's not going to happen at this point. Early in the year, it looked like he might break the Bears single season receiving record. I believe it's Brandon Marshall, 1507 number of yards. And I forget what year that was, 2014, maybe, that huge year that he had. So DJ Moore might not do that. But like, if he ends up being, which he should be, the all-time leading receiver for the Bears, and finally somebody take over Johnny Morris at the top of that list. Johnny Morris played football like 1,000 years ago. Then yeah, that's probably up there for biggest fleece in NFL trade history. Like it is up there, especially if the Bears were to somehow get, Caleb Williams, or if that pick becomes number one overall somehow, some way. Yeah, biggest fleece of all time. But yeah, back to that offensive line. They look really good. I'm impressed with the way they've turned the corner. And again, going back to the whole game plan thing we talked about, like if that's the case and if you recognize that, because we understood, at least initially in the beginning of last year, the start of this year, we had this belief that, hey, Luke Getsy, Matt Eberflus recognized that their offensive line isn't ready yet. So because of that, they are not going to want Justin Fields to take shots down the field. They're going to want to do all this short stuff. But at the same time, it was weird because they kept him in the pocket. And if you knew your offensive line was bad, you'd think you'd roll him out of the pocket at least. Again, you'd think just the confusion that this team brings us on a weekly basis. But hopefully they'd be able to at least just look at the stats like the rest of us and understand the offensive line is playing well, right? And if Justin Fields plays, like, I don't really want to make excuses about the thumb. Like if you're healthy and you're able to play, then you're able to play, right? Like this is the NFL. If you're out there on Thursday, you better be full 100% Justin Fields on Thursday. Because if you ain't, then you shouldn't be playing. So if we do see Justin Fields, I'm assuming he's 100% able to do everything he can do. And if that's the case with the way this offensive line is playing, take shots down the field, right? Roll them out. Do everything you can. You are at this point, I would say, and I have this written down, like more than any point this year, because of the injuries that have happened, maybe since week one, like Justin Fields has the most to his disposal. The offensive line has come together, right? The playmakers are all healthy. He's getting Equanimeous St. Brown back for whatever that's worth. He's a good blocker, yada, yada, yada. DJ Moore is coming into his own. Maybe he wasn't, fully on the same page with Fields at the start of the year against the Packers and against the Buccaneers, whatnot, right? Like at this point, like November 10th, 8th, 9th, whenever the freaking game is, 9th, technically, on Thursday, he has the most to his disposal from an offensive skill set standpoint that, like, if he's fully healthy, Kate, there's truly no excuses unless the game plan is absolutely awful. So we'll wait to see what happens on Thursday. But do you disagree that, like, at this point, with the health of all the guys, with the fact that you're 9 games into the season, and we know that a lot of people say that September of the NFL is an extended preseason, your midseason form, you got people healthy. Is this like the most Justin Fields has had to his disposal through honestly his career?
I was going to say, I think it's throughout his entire career, the most that he's probably had at his disposal. His offensive line is healthy. He has a big time receiver. I know. What do you want to call him? Pro Bowl receiver. DJ Moore, one of the best receivers in the league, at his disposal. You're right. If Fields fails in this aspect, if he's fully healthy and can play, I have to blame it on the coaching staff, because the pieces are there. And the Bears have done a lot to alter this roster over the last year to ensure that there are pieces there and that he's being protected. I mean, I just go back to the Washington game. How much time did Fields have in the pocket to throw a lot of those passes? He had all day. Like that's the precedent that the Bears should be playing at week in and week out. They're not doing it consistently, but when they put it all together, that offense has the ability to be very, very good because of the pieces that the Bears have brought in and how they've constructed this offensive line. So consistency is like the biggest
Mhm.
concern, and what's so frustrating being a Bears fan and watching this team is that you don't quite know the version you're going to get week in and week out. But that's also goes back to the coaching staff of, I know they're not in charge of getting their players ready to play in terms of like hyping them up. Like you shouldn't, if you're a professional athlete, you shouldn't need extra motivation to go out and perform. Some players do, but the coaching staff does need to take a little blame of like the game plan not being there, or that being
Mhm.
the part that throws the guys off versus, them just not showing up to play. Because yeah, I agree with you. This is the most talent that we've seen on the Bears since Justin Fields was drafted.
Yeah. And look, again, we don't know if he's going to play him. I'm almost just selfish at this point because obviously I wouldn't say an agenda, but I have thoughts about and I would love to be proven right at the end of it. And it looks like I'm not going to be proven
You're
right. And
trying so hard though.
it's going to kill me
I'll
when I
give
have to
you
come on
that.
this show. Oh, and Jake's going to kill me. It's going to be so bad. I hate it. But so I'm praying he plays for that. But also again, from the entertainment aspect, like don't lie to yourselves. Like you just want to watch Justin Fields play with
Yes,
Tyson Bagent.
yes.
Like everyone knows that. And
I rooted for Tyson Bagent to be good. I wanted him to be
sure.
but he's just not. He's not. He does
Okay.
he does some
I
things
agree.
very well, but you
Right.
can't have, what does he have? 3 touchdown passes to 6 turnovers in his 2.
Oh, it's like 8, Kate.
Is it?
It's like, yeah, I mean, he threw 2 when he came in and replaced Justin Fields. Then I believe he threw 2 the week before the Saints game. Then he threw 3 the Saints game and fumble. I believe he's got 8 turnovers on the year in 3 games and
Yeah.
change.
I mean, that's just not going to cut it in the NFL, which I know he probably had an opportunity to play D1. He wanted to play at Shepherd where his family
Yeah.
was, but you still then spent 4 years playing against D2 talent. That's quite the difference than NFL talent.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, we credit to Tyson Bagent. We will say this again and again and again because people listen to this and like, oh, you guys are against Bagent. We're not against
No,
Bagent.
not at
We have
all.
nothing against him. This is an unbelievable story. They're gonna make a movie about this. But it's becoming you have to come to the reality that he's not the solution. Like,
No.
there's too like you say what you want about Fields and Bagent, like back and forth, who's better, who should play. That's already an outrageous conversation in my mind. But like the greater conversation should be, is Tyson Bagent at some point the quarterback hoisting the Lombardi Trophy for the Chicago Bears? And the answer to that is clearly no. It's not even close. Like there's no outcome where at the end of the year and it comes August of 2024, Tyson Bagent's taking QB1 reps at training camp. Like there's 0% chance that that's the outcome. So again, nothing against Bagent. If he plays on Thursday, like we're going to root the hell out of him. Kate will be drunk at the 50-yard line rooting for Tyson Bagent.
Hell yeah.
Like, that's exactly what will be happening. Will that be the case? Let's get into our bold predictions, into our game predictions. Okay, I don't know if you have any bold predictions loaded up. I'll go first if you wanna load some up.
Yeah,
here.
you go first. I need to
I'll go
load
first.
up my.
You can think about it. We had Jake Hasan and Don in the chat talking about the last game that the Panthers played against the Indianapolis Colts, in which Bryce Young threw 3 interceptions. It's a Colts defense that's not great, but they do get after the football. Kenny Moore had 2 interceptions and a pick 6. And guess what? That's where I'm going with my bold predictions on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going a pick 6. It hasn't happened, Kate, in 5 years for Eddie Jackson. He did it so many times. Well, not so many. I think he did it 2 times that 2018 season. I remember the Thanksgiving game against Detroit. He did it against Minnesota on Sunday Night Football in the game that got flexed. I don't know if he had another one. I believe he only had the 2 that year. If you're in the chat and you can remember, please drop it in there. But this guy has been waiting so long to get that next pick 6. He had one last year that got taken away by a penalty. He's had a few the past couple of years that have gotten taken away by penalty. We know how bad this Panthers offensive front is. We know that Bryce Young's a rookie quarterback. He's going to make mistakes. Eddie Jackson's really, really good at baiting quarterbacks into certain coverages and baiting them to thinking he's in places that he's not. He's going to jump a route. He's going to take it to the house. Eddie Jackson pick 6 is my defensive bold prediction. I got to check the price on the sports
Plus
books for Bears.
for a defensitive touchdown.
Ooh.
That's nice.
That is great value on that. I'm taking that. Eddie, I would, you know how cool it'd be if you could bet specific players.
That would be
touchdown.
That would be great.
That would be so fun. But that's where I'm going with. Do you have one? Do you have a bold prediction? Or do you need me to throw my offensive
So
one?
earlier today, I was looking at Foreman to be the first touchdown scorer, but Herbert is on the board now.
Okay,
So
wow.
I think Herbert's likely going to be playing this weekend if the books are going to put that out there. So I'm going to take him to score first touchdown scorer, but I do think Foreman gets in the end zone at least at some point throughout. And Fields is on there as anytime touchdown scorer. Interesting.
Yeah, that is
he always up
interesting.
there, even if if
No.
players are questionable? Do the books
No.
put odds up there?
No. I mean, typically they'll take him down.
Yeah.
What's the price on that?
Plus 125. He has the shortest odds of anyone
Of anyone to get a rushing touchdown?
to
Yeah,
be
what?
anytime touchdown scorer. Yeah.
Yeah. What do they know in Vegas? What
Right?
they know something that we don't. Typically, right, you would not see that go on the board until Thursday when the designation comes out, or at least there's better news. That's interesting, to say the least. Is Tyson Bagent up there? He has to be. He has to be on there.
Bagent is
Bagent's
not on
actually
the
had a couple
board.
rushing. Not on the board?
Not at FanDuel.
This I mean, this is significant. Okay, because what that tells you is that FanDuel truly believes that Fields is going to play.
Yeah.
That's what that tells you, because, I mean, Fields on the board, but I just opened up my phone right now. I'm about to place this parlay. I'm Fields rushing
Fields is
touchdown,
tied with Herbert and Foreman for best odds for first touchdown scorer too, plus 650.
Yeah. But so you're going with Foreman anytime. That's your bold prediction.
Foreman anytime. Yes.
All right. Foreman gets in the end zone, according to King Constable. On the offensive side of the ball, I am going to go with Darnell Mooney to get in the end zone. That's where Michael Dodson says, let's go. I hope FanDuel is right. I hope so, Michael. I mean, they know more than we do. There's a reason
they know a lot more than we do. Yeah.
That it's like 24-17 in the fourth quarter of the primetime game. And guess what the spread is? It's -7, right? There's a reason that they make so much money and that those buildings are so large in Vegas. Trust me, we work for betting companies. Kate and I do. We know how cruel they can be and how accurate that they are.
And Kevin, lines move to Bears -4 at DraftKings right now. Fields is playing.
Fields is you're locking it in?
Fields is playing. We're reporting the news. He's back.
He's in. He's back. We're reporting it. Bears Nation podcast exclusive. Justin Fields is active on Thursday night. That's really significant. We know that the line has been at 3.5 for most of the week, most of the day. I don't know when that changed. It'd be interesting to see when that changed. There really wasn't anything significant said by the coaches today that would have indicated anything. There's again, that's why this is weird, is because there really has been no information unless since the time we've been on this podcast. Ian Rappaport has tweeted something. There's really been nothing that has, indicated that Fields is at least on track to play. And I believe you started the show saying you didn't think he was going to play. And the more that I kind of looked at it, yeah, I mean, the more that I looked at it, I wasn't sure, just because the other thing is we talked about the game plan. We talked about the fact that they could win this game easily by just running the ball 70% of the time. And guess what? You got 10 days after this. So if you why rush Justin back if you're going to get 10 days afterwards anyway? Might have him process. Right. And all of that makes sense. But you could also play the card of, well, he could play Thursday, even if he does sort of re-aggravate it. Now he's got 10 days, not 7 days to get healthy. You could really take a bunch of angles on this. But I guess at this point, we'll be under the assumption that he's going to play. And if that's the case, I guess I'll adjust my offensive bold prediction, because I was going to go with Darnell Mooney because it seemed like he was sort of building a relationship with Tyson Bagent. We saw the 80-plus yards last week. We know that Mooney himself is playing for a contract, hopefully with the Bears at the end of the year. We don't believe that that'll be the case, but hopefully somewhere else he'll get some decent money and earn himself some wealth for Darnell Mooney. But I'm going to go back to DJ Moore here. I think he gets 2+ touchdowns. And I know that's really just using the whole Thursday night narrative thing, right? About, he scored 3 the last time they played on Thursday. And maybe that's kind of in my brain, But there's a lot of truth to the fact that the target share when DJ Moore is out there is just so, or when Justin Fields is out there, rather, is just so significant. Clearly, that's his favorite target. He's really gone away from Darnell Mooney this year. He's really relied on DJ Moore as a safety blanket, and just his ability to like bounce off of tackles and find ways to get into the end zone and find ways to just get yards after the catch makes you feel even more positive about him getting into the end zone. And it's weird because that's the thing that was like, you didn't have a lot of stains on DJ Moore's resume. When he was traded, everyone's like, yes, bona fide, like surefire wide receiver 1, 4 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons, like, top 5 in like first 5 seasons receiving yards as a player, like all these different accolades, right? All these different things. But then you looked at his touchdown totals and it was like, 3 touchdowns in a season, 4 touchdowns in a season. Like he hasn't been known for getting touchdowns. And part of it's because he's had Sam Darnold throwing to him. He's had the ghost of Cam Newton throwing to him. He's had all these things. But now that he's here, he's become such a big play threat that he is a viable option to score and to score twice. He's clearly Justin Fields' favorite target. Look, it doesn't favor the matchup because the Carolina pass defense is actually pretty good. They're 5th in opponent pass yards per game. They're pretty good on the with their pass defense. But without CJ Henderson, who's shadowing DJ Moore across the field? Like he's going to get open. I think he's going to find the end zone. I think they are going to feed that man. Jacob Odudon says he needs DJ to get 50 points for my fantasy team. Hey, me too, because I started the season 5-0 and Justin Fields is my quarterback and DJ Moore is my wide receiver 2. And I've lost 4 straight since Fields has gone out because not only has Fields been out, but DJ Moore just hasn't been a productive fantasy receiver since Tyson Bagent's been in there. So do you have any other bold predictions if you want to throw out there? You got anything spicy?
Yeah, Bears win by over a touchdown.
Okay. Alternate spread, 6.5, -6.5 for the Bears.
Yep. I like that. That might be what I'm locking in for the game day.
I'm with you on that. I'll definitely be making a little parlay. Kate's gonna be making a few of them because she'll be at the game. Are you gonna tailgate this game, Kate? I know it's a Thursday, so you're coming from work, but
so I'm not, because I'm going with I'm going with a group of moms.
Oh,
so I don't think the moms want to tailgate, and maybe if we do, we'll tailgate with some wine. We probably won't be ripping shots and doing beer bongs. That's what the tailgate will consist of.
Wine.
But hey, the moms are pumped. Moms in the front row. Yeah. Big time.
Who are they most excited to see? Who do they think the most attractive Bears player is?
Obviously Cole Kmet is the most attractive.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah, Taylor made the wrong decision on the tight end she was supposed to go out with. I mean, Cole Kmet. And now he's looking better than Kelsey has.
Just imagine if Taylor went out with Cole Kmet and had to go to the Bears games and watch that. Like at least she gets good football to watch.
Yeah, she'd watch them lose by 30 and be like, yeah, this ain't gonna work out.
Yeah, I don't date
losers
anymore. Yeah, exactly. She only dates winners. Cole Kmet's a winner in my book.
He
played. Hey, last weekend he was pretty good. He and Bagent are building a little chemistry.
He's a winner at the bank. He got the contract extension.
Yeah.
Jake's a huge Cole Kmet guy, and I've always been mild towards him. We've had that debate a lot, but like he's living up to the money right now, like 100%. Like that guy is making plays. It's nice to see them finally target him, especially in the red zone. And like, he wasn't supposed to be that guy either. Like he wasn't supposed to be a big time playmaker in the red zone. Like there's a reason the Bears signed Jimmy Graham in 2020 is because they thought that Cole Kmet could be a guy that gains yards down the field and moves the sticks and moves the chains and blocks and yada, yada, yada. But they thought that he wasn't a legitimate, like one-on-one viable target in the red zone. And he's become that. And that is a significant development in who he can become as a player. But Kate will be at the game. She'll be at the 50-yard line. She'll be drunk off wine. Will she be seeing a win? Kate, will start with you. Bears, Panthers, Thursday Night Football. Are the Bears coming out of here with a win? Obviously they are, but what's the final score? What do you got?
Let's see. Bears are winning 27-7.
Wow. Well, when you're talking about alternate spread 6.5, well, you might as well bump that to 19.5 and get yourself some serious money if you think it's going to be that crazy.
Oh, no, 27-7. I meant 27-20. Did I say 7?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said 27-7.
No,
I was like,
in my
wow.
mind, 27. They're going to win by 7. They're going to win by a touchdown.
Okay.
That would be a bold prediction, 27-7.
Shit, I mean, people thought it was a bold prediction to even pick the Bears on Thursday night against the Commanders last time, and they ended up winning that game by 20. So you might
That's
be onto
true.
something, Kate.
I
You
might.
might be onto something.
If the Bears win 27-7, I need to go to every game from now on and sit on the 50-yard line.
Yeah, we're finding a way to get Kate tickets
Yeah.
If that happens. And if it's 40-7, like Jake Hasan in the chat says, then yeah, we're definitely getting you tickets. I don't know who the season ticket holder is that you're getting the tickets from, but
We're
I
gonna
gotta have to
talk
make a
to her
phone
little.
call. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to figure that out. Look, I think it's just again, it's so hard to predict the game. Like if I were a bettor, I'm not touching the over under. I just you just don't know what they're gonna do offensively. Again, we at this point, because we broke the news, presume Justin Fields is gonna play. But back to the initial conversation we had at the start of the show, like the game plan might be what it was for Tyson Bagent. Dink and dunk, yards after the catch for Deonta Foreman, 6-yard runs on 2nd and 9, the absolute most pitiful thing in the world. And like they might just cruise to on a short week, cruise to a 17-12. Panthers don't score a touchdown, kick 4 field goals type of game. Like it might be that.
Not on the picture at all.
It's not. It's totally not. Like we're gonna be there at halftime.
Yeah,
it's gonna be 5-0 at halftime, and we're like, "Fuck, we should have saw it coming. We should have saw it coming." I'm gonna go. I think the Bears obviously win this game. I think they do make a statement. This is the most significant of the game of the year for them. I think they do win 24-13. I think they find a way to get on the board. I think the Bears defense has been ramping up, has been playing really, really well the past couple of weeks. I think they do come into their own with a defensive touchdown, like I said in the bold predictions, but really just, hold that Panthers offense to just 13 points. I mean, this is a really dismal offense that hasn't been able to figure anything out. Even the week that Bryce Young had his best game, and the week that they won, I believe they only scored, a handful of points in that game. I got to double check what the score that one was. Yeah, they beat the Texans, which looks crazy in hindsight after the way that CJ Stroud has performed. 15-13, right? In the only game that they won, they scored 13 last week. I think the most points they've scored in the year is 24 against the Lions they scored 27 against the Seahawks in week 3. But I don't think they get it done. I've actually been very impressed with the Bears defense. We talked about the impact of Montez Sweat. I think they get after the ball. I think they take the ball away. 24-13. Bears win, Kate. You're going to be lit at the 50-yard line.
What's that?
Said you're going to be lit at the 50-yard line.
I'm going to be lit at the 50-yard line, especially if they win with that score.
Yeah, I mean,
I might rush the field.
For you. Yeah. Oh, how about that, Kate? Rush the field. Hey, it's justified. It's justified.
That's all it is. We've gotten in trouble with the law before. We can do it again.
Right. And I'm pretty sure when you rush the field, I think you just go to jail for the night. Then they release. It's really not that. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone listening to this to rush the field. Please don't do that to yourself. You gotta probably pay bail or something. But it's not the worst thing in the world. I see you guys streaking. I'm like, well, you're an idiot, and you're probably off 18 beers, but you'll be all right. You'll never be able to go to the stadium again. You'll never be able to go to the stadium again, but you'll be all right. Life will go on. Kate, we really appreciate you coming on. This was a really, really fun episode. You stepped
thanks
in
for having
wonderfully for Jake. We have your bets. We have your picks. If you guys heard them, parlay them, put them together, correct score bets. Kate is sharp. If you don't know where Kate's from, she works for BetQL. That's how I know her. We work together on BetQL. She is the best in the business when it comes to all this stuff. So please follow her. What's your Twitter? Is it Kate Constable? Just
at Kate Constable.
At Kate Constable. Drop a follow. We appreciate Kate. We appreciate all the listeners in the chat. Michael Dotson, Jacob Capone, Don, G Station, T3P Podcast, US Sports Cards. I am Scott. Everybody, Jay Sanders. Appreciate you guys. We will be back on Monday. We're going to take a little bit of break. We'll be back on Monday to break down hopefully what is a Bears win against the Carolina Panthers. For myself, for Kate, this has been Bears Nation Podcast. Have a great night.